to join, please go ahead and join. The lobby will be opened. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. So I appreciate people for joining. Yeah, I like to, one of the things I want to do on this campaign is get to ask people what they want. It's not about me. It's really about you, the people and residents of Apex. So yeah, ask me anything, really. Here's a question. It actually comes from Lawrence from Facebook. Will the S line ever happen? A focus on planning staff has been fixed route public transit. It has a big influence on the town planning. The current route costs the town $40 to $60 per boarder. Workers would rather spend an hour with their family commuting by car than adding time commuting by public transit. Later on in his question on Facebook, he talked about how the planning is spending more focus on more dense locations, and it's actually grouped more around the current traffic plan. So he goes on to say traffic will get worse, school capacity will remain an issue, and builders will provide density developments guided by planning. At the same time, we've increased the allowable density around the existing and planned transit routes closer to the core of Apex to encourage affordability and to reduce the reliance on personal vehicles. These changes were intended to ensure that public transit investments are successful and to encourage higher density development patterns in areas where it can be supported by the transportation network, unquote. I forgot to open it with a quote at the same time. I think the S line will happen at the last town council meeting. They've been doing a study on how to best expand the current routes, and there were 4 options. I do believe and support the outer option that gives us more accessibility. And there was an option on there as well that was kind of planning for Viridia. Viridia is going to be a couple years down the road. As it starts to get constructed, not much of a need. Long term, yes. So I think we can do multiple things at one time. Where I think we may struggle is right now, the route is free not free, doesn't cost you to board, but there is a cost associated with it where the town is absorbing that cost. And a lot of it's funded by grants, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to be one of the things where I believe in public transit. I personally, living in cities for part of my life, I kind of like taking a bus or a train. It's going to be it should be a priority, and I believe it's a priority. I think the obstacle is becoming future funding. So how do we address your question? Yes, I believe it will get built. I think the town is trying to navigate how to fund it in the future and picking the most responsible path. I will continue to advocate for public transit. I know that the other part to that is the spectrum of age groups that are using what we currently have or could be. And that's young people as well as senior citizens who may not drive or may not want to drive. And for young people that are going to and from work, I think that would be an added benefit. The tough question is, how do we fund it? Is that talking to the residents of the town and seeing if it's something that we want to invest in, or do we go the organic funding route through grants meeting certain requirements for federal and or state funding? It's something that we have to figure out how do we approach. I do think it, but I do think the S line is it'd be a wise investment. So that's my long answer. I think it will be. I think the obstacle now is prioritizing and funding. So, Lawrence, thank you for the question. Another question, do you feel the town can be more transparent? Yes, I do. I think transparency, when I think of transparency, if you've ever seen the movie 8 Mile, um, how Rabbit was just kind of talking about all the things that he thought the other person was going to talk about, Papa Doc. Um, that's the best illustration of we can't be afraid to talk about things that could make us feel uncomfortable, because it's not a dialogue if only one person's talking. So I think there's a perception in the town that it's the communication's one way. I was just at the Muslim American Political Action Committee forum a couple weekends ago, and I said something similar. It's got to be two-way conversation, and we've got to be afraid. I mean, we have to be unafraid to speak about topics. We have to be accessible, um, and learn how to be more truthful. And when I say, I'm not saying people are lying, but I think that I think people believe that people want to hear things that are going to make them feel better as opposed to the facts of a matter. And I think um, that's a slippery slope. And when you break that confidence and where people don't feel that you're accessible, number one, and number two, that you're going to tell them what the facts are, you lose you lose that confidence. I do think there's an opportunity for the town to figure that out, whether that's opening up more channels, meeting people where they are for communication. It could be email, it could be snail mail, social media, but increasing that cadence and frequency of communication will help build that sense of transparency and raise the level of confidence in the leadership of the town. I can say that probably without looking, the mayor is probably the most accessible person. He does get criticism, but I still give him kudos for being very accessible. And he's okay with the criticism. So I think that supports my belief that being accessible and having multiple channels to communicate, it actually helps you with transparency. Another issue I mentioned in another Ask Me Anything is, just the feedback loop. We should ask for feedback and return the results of the feedback consistently and constantly. So, yeah, I do feel the town could be more transparent. Great question. Before, I'm not sure if we have another question, but I want to say this. One thing that I've been really trying to do, just this past week with the campaign, is oh, well, that question kind of answers this. What is driving your campaign? Well, I was just going to freestyle that one, but it's really trying to hear more of what the people in the town want. I think it's virtually impossible to meet everybody, but I'm very keen to know what what you guys want, what, what's important to you, because what's important to me generally are they may align, but the quiet parts, right? I may not know those. Um, I I kind of relate that to something I saw on Reddit a month or two ago, where the question was, does downtown Apex have any things to do for young children outside of big events like the July 4th or the Christmas parades? That's a question that I don't really have to experience. Like, I wouldn't be thinking about, because at this phase of my life, all of our kids are adults and they've moved out. We don't have young children, but it's a very important thing. So if I want a town that is that fits young people and young families, those concerns, like what in your perspective, the things that are the quiet parts for you, I need to know those because I want to advocate those. Um, so my empty nester priorities, they're probably not going to be applicable to somebody with young kids. So I want to make sure that I voice those desires for every group. So I really want to know what people are looking for from the town. And I believe generally we'll agree, but I think also the quiet parts, the things that you may feel are important, but just don't want to say. So that's something that's been driving the campaign recently. I want to get in front of more people. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing these every week, because it gives me an opportunity to listen. Let me tie that back into the first one, right? This is something, I mean, so I'm going to kind of freestyle it, and I'll wait for another question. But it, if the only time you see a candidate is during reelection or election, there's something wrong. So I definitely want to change that. I just kind of I want to really stress and emphasize that point. We should be, one, asking for your vote in confidence, not to convince you, but remain accessible after the fact, and um, have opportunities to, hear from the town more frequently than just election time. Does your family support you? Wow. Yes. I asked my family before I decided to run if they thought it was a good idea. Uh, and if one of them would have said no, I wouldn't have put my name on the ballot, because it's important that I don't give the um, perception that I know everything. And I believe my family, they can see my blind spots. So it meant a lot to me that that I have my family support. And I'll say this like time and time again: you're never going to hear me promise anything. The only promise I make is to my wife. But I'll make my commitment, and I like to live and lead a principled life. So if I make a commitment, I'm going to follow through on it and provide an update, whether that's the final result or what we need to do to improve, a status update, anything of that matter to keep you informed. So commitments to me are very important. And again, I choose my words very carefully because I don't want to overcommit to anybody. But I also, to the root of your question, that's just how it is in the Powell family. We are very open with each other. Uh, we support each other. We critique each other, and where our skills may fall into different buckets, we lean on each other for um, that assistance when needed or support. So that's a great question. What are your core values? It's a great question. You guys, so I have a very simple mission statement, and it's to be a great husband, a great father, and a good friend and brother. That's all I got. So whatever I'm doing, I measure it against those value. That one simple statement is what I'm doing or saying. Does it make me a great husband, a great father, or a good friend or brother? Um, it's a lot simpler for me to do that. And I often don't have to think twice when I evaluate what I'm doing or saying. And it's for medium sized things and large things. For little things like what color socks to wear, I eliminate that decision by just buying the same like two colors for the most part. But it's important to me to live based on like something that helps me to stay grounded. it's very easy to publicly be somebody and privately be somebody else. And I try to just to be the same person one way or another. And that's very important to me. So the way I'm talking to you now is the way I would talk to you, like if we were just sitting around having a beer. I'm a pretty simple guy in that aspect because I understand the value of like living by principles. So my core values are measured against something that I can easily um, self like self regulate on. So I don't get too far away from where I'm trying to go in life. But that's a great question. What personal experiences have shaped your campaign? Well, honestly, it's I think it's just over time, from being a young man to the young age of 49, I've just kind of learned that you have to listen to people and try to genuinely understand what they're saying and what they're asking for. So when I would lead a lot of teams, for example, I realized that people didn't get jobs to get fired or to do a terrible job. Often people weren't performing at the level that was expected because they didn't have the resources or the tools to do the job. Then I would find that sometimes they weren't trained properly. And then I found out that people aren't trained properly because they're afraid of exposing what they don't know. I say all that to say this. That's one reason I don't look at my fellow candidates and colleagues as opponents, right? I don't believe they're trying to do anything nefarious. We may have differences of opinion on execution, and um, I look at the town, at the residents, as maybe we need different, uh, like a different perspective on how do we communicate. That would be the training. Like what I would want to make sure that the town, like the staff of the town, understand. Hey, we some of the things that we need to communicate, we can do that very easily. It doesn't have to be this complicated or complex situation. We can do it very simply. We could just change the cadence, and we can just answer that question. Um, so those two things, listening and understanding, and trying to uh, uh, relate with why people are performing a certain way or why people believe a certain thing, has really helped. Understanding that some of the feedback I've gotten is it makes me believe that there's a lack of not well, a lack of focus on some of the simple things we can do to improve, right? Some people are resistant to feedback or constructive criticism. Shouldn't be, right? You can't know everything, and if somebody's looking on the outside at the thing, they probably see the thing that you can't do. It's like football, soccer, basketball, baseball. The coach can see the player and what the player can improve on. Doesn't mean the player is not a good player. So we always have room to continuously improve. So you know, drawing on some of those experiences has really helped me in the campaign. I've always listened to people. I've always tried to, well, and as I became more mature, I've always had the desire to understand why things work a certain way and why people do certain things, and then trying to find a way to bridge the gap. So I believe in having high standards, but reasonable expectations. So the standard may be very high, but based on the person and the situation and the unique scenario, my expectations have to be more realistic. So that way people can over time meet that standard. What is some of the feedback you've gotten in your campaign so far? Well, um, I've heard a lot of thank you for asking that question. And I've heard that you're really easy to talk to. So I'm grateful for that feedback. So it's just one of those. I've been kind of looking at this campaign through a different lens over the last week or so because I really feel that it's it's easy to sound like a politician, right? If you're not careful, you start saying politician things. That's not who I am. I just get like this like knotted stomach thinking about sounding like that. Um, and I don't think people, I mean, we have enough of that in other areas of our life. I just want to be genuine with people. I just want to be Andre. I don't want to, I don't know everything, and it's going to be a learning curve because I don't understand where every lever is and the town's mechanisms. That's just a fact for any of us, with the exception of Ed, because he's had 4 years to learn those. So I don't necessarily I don't think I'll ever change that. I just want to be me and represent the people of the town. I want to know what you guys want. It's like I know what I want, but in order for me to be effective, I have to listen and understand what the town wants. That's a great question. You guys are learning a lot about me. So before the next question, I really want to kind of expand on this thought. Look, if if everybody told you what you wanted to hear, like it's like taking a test or an exam. You know the professor, you know the teacher, like you know their personality. You can kind of script out the test. You know what the last test was. So eventually, the test is almost an exercise in, or are you paying attention to that one personality? And if so, you can pass the test. Well, I think that's what a lot of people lean into, right? What's the buzzword or what's the latest national thing that you could pull that thread on to make people relate to you? And, we've all heard the phrase kitchen table topics. Sure. But at some level, we have to like just know the person. And I just kind of I hope that as we continue forward, that we can get to a better place, whether that's the town level, the state level, and the national level, because I just kind of gotten tired of the rhetoric, and I've gotten tired of when I hear political speak, I just kind of get bored, and I don't believe what people are saying. So I'm kind of cynical there, but I hope people um, continue just to be more truthful and just talk to people and connect to them on a human level. So, what does a sense of community mean to you, and how do you foster it? Uh, uh, it's the Norman Rockwell paintings, although very naive and idealistic for a different time, different world. We can create whatever painting we wanted to, we want. We just have to model those actions consistently enough for a long time. I often think of when I meet a new group of people that you can amp yourself up into what they're expecting of you until you just stop long enough and be yourself. So I believe if we spend more time being ourselves and genuinely doing life with people, that's how you foster a sense of community. Um, I was driving back to Apex this afternoon and on US 1, and a lady was in the far left lane. And I guess she realized that she needed to get off onto 55. Well, I was kind of watching her slow down, and I was thinking, I think she's going to try to get off. So I preemptively slowed down. She did later move in front of me with a signal, which was great. but I gave the car behind me some time to slow down so we wouldn't produce a accident, blah, blah, blah. So we get off to the off ramp and I see her do the thank you wave. And I was like, yeah, like that. That's, we're just being nice. So I wave back. It's like thumbs up. The, the, the behaviors we model and the things we do when nobody's looking, that's how we build a sense of community. I'm looking out for her. She's trying to go wherever she's going. It's not that hard. It's complicated and it's complex, but we just have to do little things to get to where we're going. So. Okay. Let's see. Trying to think, is there anything that personal question? What's a small, so I guess people send emails to see if they could throw me off guard, but I really said, ask me anything. Personal question. What's a small thing that brings you joy or makes you laugh? Um, this is going to sound super corny, but whenever I hear my wife laugh, I kind of smile because she has this very infectious laugh. And it doesn't matter where she's at. And if I hear it, I just kind of smile. It's it's this cool thing. I like to know that she's happy. And yeah, that's one of those secret things. Another thing that just like warms my heart is when my kids call me dad. Um, that's like it just means so much to me. As I said before, they're all older, and it makes me really proud that they like to hang out with us. So yeah, those are two things that just make me smile. I get an email from a gentleman, and I'm going to assume that he lives around Jordan Point, and he asked 8 questions. And I'll tell you what, I was really excited to answer those questions. Let me see if I can pull it up here, and just give me a second. Um, let's see. They were very thoughtful questions, and his intent was to get feedback, and he was going to share it with his neighbors. And I was very glad to answer those questions. One of them is, would you vote yes or no to a data center being built within our town limits? And my answer was no, no, super no. So I want to be accessible like now and in the future. And I can't emphasize enough how much I'm not a fan of the data center. I know it could possibly become something that the county or the state gets involved in. Yeah. So let's see, what's another one? What is your plan to fix and future proof our building problems? My answer was number one, audit of the audit and its findings. And number two, enhance the communication back to town. I'm sure that it's not the only area where we can improve. I think that's super important. Like a lot of times you do troubleshooting and you don't think about how do you stop the leaks. So I think we should audit the audit and find out what findings were there that we have uh, a, a low, moderate, and or critical threat to, and threat not being like severity, but just threat like future problems. And two, just send that back to the community, whether that's on the utilities website. I think that would be a good way to kind of show that, hey, We hear you. And this is what we found. This is what we're going to do in the future. Third question was, how will we address rapid population growth and its impact on infrastructure? Well, I sent some links to videos that I've done addressing those exact things. So I want to, I just can't, I don't want to, I'm not going to say something different. But very good question, something that we're all very passionate on. We're growing. There's nothing we can do about that. Fun fact, in 08 and 09, I was a realtor in this area. And at that time, there were 100 new people moving in Wake County every day. And at the same time, so that's a lot of growth. So I would estimate we're probably around 150 to 200 new people every day. Where are most of the jobs? Well, they're close to RTP, or they're going to be in Morrisville. Our current tech hubs. Well, where are those people going to live? Fuquay, Holly Springs, Morrisville, Cary, Apex. Well, let's just throw a hospital in there for good measure. Well, there you go. That growth is going to continue to happen. We have to change how we respond to that and be a little bit forward thinking. So, great question again. Question number 7 was, number 6. How would you manage town budget to avoid tax increases? My answer, the principle that I would lean into, because I don't have enough data, is to invest where it makes sense for the community and practice thoughtful leadership with the budget. Meaning, I'm not afraid to cut where it's necessary. Like, we should invest where it makes sense, where it's going to see a long-term impact. And for things that aren't working, we need to evaluate them and decide if that's what we're really committed to. Let's see. Question number 7. Do you support expanding parks and recreational facilities? My answer, yes. That was it. It was a pretty simple one. Question number 8. How will you handle the water resource management amid rapid growth or amid growth, including solving the smell put out by the wastewater treatment plant? My answer, aggressively, because resources are finite. This will have to be handled with respect to our partnership with Cary. So we do share some services with Cary, and that's one of them. But we need to be aggressive about how we manage our resources, and we need to be aggressive about how we steward our relationship in terms of the environment. You can't build more water. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You can't. Well, you can grow more trees, but it takes time for them to reach maturity. So we have to be aggressive, thoughtful about how we manage our finite resources, especially in the environment, and pivot where we have to. The last question he asked was, what is your position on economic development incentives for small businesses? What about for large businesses? My answer was, they have to make sense. And I would like to see more businesses that can help improve the lives of current residents, not just new residents. Although each scenario will be different, I want to make sure as many people as possible can grow as the town grows. We often hear Company X will bring Y jobs and rarely consider that our current residents are not usually in that equation. And that always concerns me. This company is going to bring 300 jobs. Well, a lot of times, at least 2/3 of those jobs are people relocating. So we're not really doing what sounds good on the surface. On the surface, that means that maybe 2/3 of the people that currently live here can have different career opportunities. It's normally the reverse. And I think that we I want to see that we do something different with that. How do we help to balance that out? When we look at affordability of the town, we have to remember that the average median income in Wake County and most of the towns is 6 figures. And the we have a math problem. So we need to figure out a way to help more people to have jobs that provide them with enough income to take advantage, full advantage of the places they live. So, you know, that also impacts housing affordability. So if we can figure out how to balance two things at once, and the town's current residents can grow with new growth as well as the while the town's growing, that's and attracting new jobs. That's a huge thing for me. I think that would be a very unique way of looking at it. And there may be some current plan to do something like that. Then if that's the case, we need to do a better job of communicating it so people aren't left in the dark. So um, I appreciated those questions. There were actually 9 of them. I was very eager to answer them, and my answers, they remain the same. So, uh, yeah. If you're looking for things I've said and you're not on social media, or you are, you can always go to apforapex.com. We try to do a good job of making sure that we get all of our videos uh, posted, and we're even trying to get things transcribed for people that don't want to watch videos. But we're trying to make sure we get our short form videos. Like for example, this will become a short form video. Chris, my one of my friends, is going to like cut some of this out so that way it's super concise. So. Well, that's a big question. What are your thoughts on the use of AI in government? Yeah, we only have 23 minutes left. I think it's a, in general, it's kind of premature. One of my biggest concerns is black box software, where, we start putting quote unquote AI. I don't really consider it AI, in charge of healthcare, insurance, banking, things that, and we don't know if it's generic enough to be useful for a mass population. Um, as it, you people write, myself included, you write code with bias, and I just don't think that it's a good idea. Um, and I don't think we're at a point where we can say, I personally can't say that I'm immune to this. We don't write code without bias. And just thinking of the scale of the impact of that, I just not a big fan. You'd have to it would take a lot of convincing for me to think that's a good idea. I don't think Apex has anything on the books or on the radar that would make that something to be concerned about, though. Just to follow up, I've not made any more videos about emails I get, because I think that ship has sailed, and that's just the tone and the place we're in. Nothing personal, I guess, but uh, I still wish it didn't happen. So that's kind of how I feel about that. One of my fellow candidates did mention something about childcare in the town, and I know that's it's a challenge. Again, I don't have young kids. I do know, but I do know that childcare expenses are increasing, and I don't know, realistically, how many people childcare is affecting um, in the town. I do think I want to, I just want to. It's been something I've been kind of thinking about. It's something we should explore and see if it's something we can realistically, effectively impact. Um, And I know that's a burden for like a lot of young families. So again, as I've said countless times, you're going to find that most of us agree on a lot of these, like a lot of topics. But I think that the thing that will um, change, or the thing that that we differ on, is execution. Um, like I've heard, like I'm 49, I've voted for my fair share of people, and campaign promises are they're really just empty noise to me. I've become kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it type of guy when it comes to politics, even at a local level. So, um, but I want to give, it was actually TJ that mentioned that. So I want to give him credit for bringing that up. It wasn't something that I considered, but not a bad idea. So that was a very thoughtful thing. And again, I don't have young kids, so that's just another example of how we can have blind spots because our current life experience or our current like situation in life isn't connected to something for somebody else. To that same effect, Sue Mu mentioned mental health assistance for young people. It's a great idea. I know both of them have young children. I don't anymore. So I may be a little bit disconnected to the effects of what they're perceiving and why that need may need to be there. So I think, again, those are great ideas, something to explore. And what can we realistically do to impact that in the town? And how many people is it affecting? So it just reinforces my thought that no party, no one individual is the gatekeeper of good ideas. So I want to publicly acknowledge uh, those two ideas from both TJ Evans and Sumu. Let's see, October 8th, there is at the Apex Senior Center, there's a forum from 5:30 to 8, I believe. If you're going to be in town, please come and check it out. You get to see mostly I believe all the candidates have acknowledged they'll be there. So I think that'll be a good time. Um, Forums are fun for me. It's a great time to answer questions and to meet more people. It's kind of unrealistic to think that I can meet everybody in town, but I do like to engage with the residents of Apex. So if you're able to make it, please do. I'm sure the data center will come up. I'm sure the utility billing will come up. Those are two big pain points, followed by infrastructure. Um, Infrastructure is an obvious pain point in Apex. Housing will come up, and like I believe we're all going to be in alignment with some of those items. I when I say execution is the difference, it means that um, how do you make a commitment, and how do you either A, complete it, or B, make continuous improvement, or C, determine that the uh, the end goal is too unattainable. I'm okay with multiple outcomes, but I'm going to strive for like completing it. Um, but I also believe that in between points A and B, there should be continuous communication and updates. So that's a little bit more clarification of that. We have 15 minutes. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? My favorite color is blue. One of my favorite places to eat in Apex, there's two. Not not that the other places are bad, but Salem Street Pub they've got a great Reuben. It is amazing. If you haven't tried it, you should definitely try it out. Um, Tap Station they've got great burgers. So if you've not tried Tap Station, please do. Coffee, Common Grounds. I am not being paid by any of the proprietors. I just really enjoy those locations. Um, my wife and I attended the Latin Festival last Saturday. That was fun. Didn't rain, so we could have been outside, but all great plans are foiled by the rain or not. So it's a great experience. Trying to think of anything. What's the toughest question? I'm going to, there looks like there is a question. Okay. What is your approach to public safety? How will you ensure accountability for law enforcement while also fostering trust and positive relationships with the community? Okay. So my mom and my youngest brother are both former law enforcement. So I'm kind of at I have a bias, but I also understand there are concerns that people have with specifically police officers. I don't necessarily believe that all police officers or law enforcement are bad people, but it's tricky, and I believe that I believe that if the only time you experience a resource officer or police officer is when you get or when something's wrong, there's no good relationship. It's just the association. Our mayor is a former police officer, so and I think a lot of people like the mayor. I just believe it goes back to building a relationship and being accessible and having conversations. So, yeah, I think that our own personal bias can be part of the problem. I think we also need to address issues if they happen and when they happen. And I also believe that we should try to build a stronger relationship. I've met a few officers for Apex Police Department. Nice guys, um, normal guys, but we have to be part of the solution. I believe most of the officers I met, and I believe the police department probably feels the same way. We need to build a relationship that's understanding the relationship at its core and roles and responsibilities. Their role and responsibility is to keep people safe and to obviously, by definition, enforce the law. So when criminal activities happen, they're doing their job. And at the end of it, we should want facts and justice to be at the forefront. And I know that's complex. And I'm not saying that's a magic fix all. I just think that's something we have to work on and continue to work on. Yeah. Another question that came in: what is your plan to support local small businesses and attract new diverse employers to the community? Well, this answer is just me being me. Business is going to business, right? it's kind of hard to give an answer to that, because like if you're looking to start a business in Apex, your motivation may be different than what you present, if that makes sense. So that's a tough one. It all depends. It all depends on, let's say, for example, it could depend on zoning and rezoning. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables that could make that a tricky answer that I don't have the answer to. But what I do believe is that most business owners want to be in a place that's going to support their business. So if the veneer of Apex is this friendly, small town feel, growing town, that's more than half the battle, like won to attract a diverse employer. Then it becomes on the relationship of actually building and constructing that business. So that's where it could go south. But, I believe that we have a lot of those positive things in our DNA. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think I'm going to be like this. The DNA's, it's already built, and we can only improve it. We can only improve on a lot of the good things that we do in Apex. So those are two good questions, and they're not easy answers. And I don't want to pretend like there is one. The public safety one, that's very complex. But I do see a lot of positive steps in the right directions. I heard one of my, and I want to go back to that one. I heard one of, I heard some feedback that there are issues that I may have not have experienced. I don't want to deny them. We have to explore those and see what we can do to solve that. And I don't want to paraphrase the person that said it, but the short version is some people feel like the police are only responsive to certain neighborhoods in certain ways and other neighborhoods in other ways. I've not personally experienced that, but I think that's something we can explore and try to repair that relationship. And again, that's very complex. Some people are going to come into that situation or those conversations with lived experience, and it's going to create a bias. It doesn't minimize or prove them wrong for that to be true. We just have to figure out how we repair that and build a level of confidence that we're all being served equally. And I hope you understand my answer to the second question. Business will business. We've done the hard part already. We are a desirable place for companies to want to locate. The rest of it is going to be, that's the, how do we navigate those avenues, right? The data center could be the exact data point you're looking for, right? It is a diverse employer. It's just not what we want. So yeah, that's neither one of those are easy answers. But the basis of what I'm saying are the principles I would lean into to kind of get some resolution to those. Almost got me in a curveball. What is your approach to handling controversial and complicated issues? Kind of like I'm doing now. I may not have formulated an opinion on some of those issues. So one, I'm going to try to understand as much as I can from other people. And I'm admittedly the type of person that some things, they don't affect me, and I'll tell people that doesn't affect me, but I want to understand how it affects you. So I try to do two things. Well, I just try to understand the other person's point of view for things that I have a vested like feeling about, or just an opinion about. I just tell people what I think and why I think that way. I'm not asking for consensus. I just want to make sure that I'm heard and we decide what the next steps are together, whether that be we work towards a solution or we disagree and do it respectfully. I don't take a lot of things personal because they're not personal to me. And it doesn't do me any good to get amped up about it or get over excited about it. Now, I may be passionate, but there's a way to express yourself about a issue that you're passionate about. And I think facts and understanding should be the core of those issues, not rhetoric, not hearsay, not the other weird stuff. We've got enough of that in other areas of our society. So I have no problem with addressing tough and difficult issues. And I'll tell you why. The first time I had to let somebody go, I felt really, really bad about it. And I was coached on that. And I was asked, did you give them the tools, the resources, the time to do X? Yes. Then it's a performance issue. It has nothing to do with the person. They're not a bad person. They just weren't able to perform. And since then, I can separate the issue from the person, and I try to get to the issue and still respect the person. So I try not to take things personal. And if I do take something personal, I'm going to always try to pull myself out of it and say, hey, can we talk about this? Let's circle back around to this. But right now this isn't going to be the conversation. So yeah, that was a good question. Yeah. Okay. Well, we got 2 minutes. I really want to thank everybody. We're going to definitely get all these things, all these videos published soon. So hopefully you can share them if you want to hear more of my thoughts and opinions on things. I try to be as transparent. Oh, I said that word, as I possibly can. And I try to maintain consistency in what I say and lean on the principles that I try to live personally. And, yeah, that's how I operate. It's a lot simpler for my brain to process like consistency than, being erratic and having to have a different answer for like the same question. So I really appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen or watch or attend. It means a lot. And I'm going to do my best to meet more people around the town because it's about what you guys need to best represent you. And so we can grow this town more effectively and include as many people as possible. And just make ourselves stronger. I don't think everything in Apex is terrible. I just think we're at a pivot point. And what we do over these next 4 years is going to really shape what happens the next 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So if you believe that, then we're in accord. If you want more information, please go to apforapex.com. Shoot us an email. We're going to do these every Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30 until October 30th. I've had a great time answering these questions, and really ask me anything, really, like whatever you think it is. If I'm like, I can't answer that, I will tell you I can't answer that. But for the most part, this is exciting for me. Apex, I think we're an amazing town, and I appreciate all of you for hanging out with me. We'll talk to you soon.